Welcome to the 20-minute talk show. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Greg Barnett, President of Intercom. So we'll start this interview and we'll have 20 minutes and I'll start the timer. And I'm excited to have him here. Tell me about your company and your journey thus far and how you started it up, your company and your involvement. I know you manage a consulting company.
I do. I'm the founder and president of Intercom Incorporated. We're headquartered here in Denver, Colorado. We were founded in 1994, and it was a long journey. I started my career as a 19-year-old accountant working as a supervisor for First National Bank of Dallas, one of Texas's largest bank conglomerates, and started in the oil and gas business and fell in love with the industry. My grandfather worked for Texaco as an accountant. We got a lot of family members who worked in oil and gas, and did not know that until after I started my career. So from basically 1981 until 1994, I really was an apprentice. And by that I mean I was really learning a skill set to serve me into whatever was going to come next. An opportunity came along to move my family to Colorado from Texas. I'm a native Texan, and so that was a really big move. We had no family up here, and moved up here, and I remember the day, it's April the 12th, 1993, here to Denver. It was snowing, I'm from Texas, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the world have I gotten myself into? But a great opportunity presented itself while I was here. And that opportunity came in meeting my peers and meeting others that are in the oil and gas industry. And what was really great was the encouragement that I received from my peers and others here in the oil and gas industry to start something. And I began thinking about it. And so remember, I started with a company up here in April of 1993. And by the summer, I started to make a decision that perhaps this is a great town to start a company, and started from scratch. And by the end of the year, basically put everything in motion so that on January 1, 1994, Intercom was founded. And it was an employee of one.
So what inspired you to start the company? Where did you get the idea?
Inspiration comes from a lot of places. For me, it was, moved my family here and went to work for a company that we didn't see eye to eye in terms of, having, good, valid integrity. I mean, there was no moral compass for the company I'd gone to work for. It was a company that was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And so here I am, and literally the inspiration came more from, I need to do this. So that was really the inspiration. So, having moved here, moved my family, still owned my house in Dallas and was still making payments, and was renting a house up here in Denver, the decision was not to move back. It wasn't a case of, okay, this is hard, I'm going to quit, and I'm going to move back and start over. It was, no, we made a decision to move here, my wife and I, so let's see if I can carry this thing through. So that was the inspiration. The inspiration was, can I do this? So I had good encouragement. People that I talked to here in Denver didn't realize they were encouraging me. But people would say, my peers would say, if you started a company, we think we'd hire you. So that was the business plan. That was the business model. You have to remember, this was way before the internet. This was way before you had billions and billions of dollars being invested in new startups. So I was starting this from ground floor, from basically a base of little capital, took an office in downtown Denver, and basically through grit and hard work, built it into a company that, we're now in our 23rd year. We have been profitable every year that we've been in business. Forbes Magazine this year honored Intercom to be and recognize us as one of America's best management consulting firms. So it's quite an honor from starting, as a 19-year-old accountant with no college degree in 1981 to persevere and go through this, put myself through school, married, and basically founding Intercom, and then being recognized, as by Forbes as one of America's best management consulting firms in 2016. So it's quite an accomplishment, but it was a lot of long hours. I will not, I won't sugarcoat that. I mean, there were plenty of 80 plus hours. There were plenty of, we're starting at 5 and we're finishing at 10 p.m. at night. And, but, I think it really was a labor of love. It was something that I really enjoyed doing. And that's the other part of this. If you're asking about, what's important for someone, whether they are starting a company or going to work for someone, enjoy what you do. And I did. And that came through in the people that we hired. It came through in the companies that hired us. They knew we loved the industry. They knew that we loved our work. And they knew that our focus was on helping that company, that client, be better tomorrow than they were today. And so we had an authentic viewpoint on where we wanted to go and the services that we wanted to provide. And never forget Drucker, who basically says the purpose, the primary responsibility of business is to create a customer. And that's what we did. So 400 plus customers later, we've had a great time.
Wow, that's very inspiring to hear about your journey and the challenges and successes that you've had.
It's what's fascinating, because it is a journey. There's always a journey, and what's really critical to think about is nothing is perfect. I talk to a lot of people who have a desire to start a company. And there's one thing that's lacking, and it's the idea that if I fail, I don't have another idea. Or I don't want to work hard to do this, because it is not easy. It is not easy. You think about, Malcolm Gladwell's book that says that anyone who is going to be good at what they're doing needs to spend 10,000 hours or so at doing it. I haven't counted all the hours that I've worked, but if I go back to 1981 and count all the opportunities I've had to do my work, hone my skill set, get better at it, work with people, manage people, fail, learn from the failures, and not forget how to fix those failures, and then continue to persevere. I mean, there's plenty of dark times in the oil and gas industry, but I've made it through, and so here we are again with another cycle, and it's probably the toughest cycle we've ever seen. But we'll persevere and we'll have the grit to having gotten through all of this. But that's the thing that I think a lot of people, and people who want to start a business forget that no one is going to hand you a bucket of cash, and they're not going to hand you a bucket of ideas. You can do really, really well if you're really good at what you're doing and will stick with it. And that's really a key. If you're expecting to find the next great thing, the next GE, the next Microsoft, don't give up and keep going. But never forget that from humble beginnings, these companies grew. No one ever walked in and started out as Walmart. Sam Walton started with tiny, 5 and dime stores all through Arkansas. And today it's now the world's largest retailer. So don't ever forget that, with any journey, you've got to take a step. You've got to know what you want, have the grit to do it, and then recognize those opportunities as they come along and take them and embrace them. We'll all fail. So if you already have the mindset of I'm going to work my way through it and not let the failures get in my way to trying to achieve my ultimate goal, that's something that's very important that a lot of people forget.
Yeah, it's possible to start from small to grow it to that size. So what are your priorities thus far in life? Your top 3 priorities in life?
Oh, well, it's become a better drummer, bake better pecan pies, and to be a better scuba diver. So,
wow.
And I say that, partly joking and partly not joking. The point of the company was to start something because I had a belief that I could start it. The second part of the business was to stay profitable. Cash is king. So that's something that's always been part of our general makeup. So that's always been a priority for us to make sure that we were doing the right things for the right customers and staying profitable. The third thing is really to be relevant. And that's something that we talk about all the time at Intercom, is the service that we're providing relevant to that company? If it's not, we need to get the answer to that. Or if we're not relevant, then let's find out why we're not, and then let's address their needs. And that's very important. So for us, for Intercom, being relevant is a high priority. Now, the earlier 3 things I mentioned are things that I just am, you forget sometimes that while you may be working 80 plus hours a week, and you may not be getting the sleep that you need to find a way to balance. And the balance, you need some outside interest. You need to have some things that you enjoy doing. I do enjoy baking pecan pies and baking other things. I do enjoy, and I've just taken up the drums. So I'm really early learning how to play the drums, but I'm finding that it's an interest because you're the engine of the group, and it's your pace and it's your tempo that's very important within the band. And then the last thing is I just love to scuba dive. And when you live in Denver, in order to actually go and do diving of any quality, you get to go someplace, you get to travel, and you get to meet people, and you get to interact. So diving for me has been something that for a kid from Texas, that vacation was basically driving down the street and getting a snow cone. Going to 5 different continents to go scuba diving certainly has opened up my eyes to a greater world, and we've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's great. That's exciting to hear about your passions, and you're focusing on balancing and separating that from your work life. That's awesome. I'm sure you have many fears of late, and so how do you overcome your fears?
I take a really deep breath and just say, take it, address the situation, and break it down, a component at a time. Fix whatever those fears are. Because, in baseball, if you're down by 3 runs and no one is on base, you cannot hit a home run and score more than 1 run. You've got to break it down into the components and begin to address them and take care of them. But again, if you don't sit back and take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's important, what's not? Is this really an issue? Is this really something that I really need to fix? We as humans will sometimes elevate problems to a level that is higher than what it turns out to be. The last thing here, and I think this is really important, I appreciate all the technologies that we have, the internet, the instantaneous ability to communicate. Something that I always say to people is, that's fine, but pick up the phone, have a conversation, have a human connection. I find that if there's something that's troubling, if there's an issue that's going on, picking up the phone will address those things quicker, and the receiver of the phone call is much more appreciative of having a human connection. The cell phones are great. Email's fine. It's great for quick communication, but you're not connecting. So the human connection cannot be overstated. In fact, I think it's an underutilized form of communication, having a conversation. So we talk about that all the time in my own company. And it's important when you're wanting to be a consultant to be there, to be present, and to be on the phone and not using an email, because emails will be misinterpreted.
That's correct, yeah, and it's very important to build that relationship. And so we have 3 minutes left. I would like you to share some wisdom for our community, and what your advice for us is, and what to do, and so that we can be better.
It's a couple of things. As an employer, I'm always looking at what the person can bring to the table. We don't always try to fit something perfectly into a box, but we love to meet and talk to and hire people who have passion for what they do, and they have a willingness to want to do more. You will be given a task, and you'll go, all right, here's the task. But what am I going to learn from that? What more can I do? Because obviously, like in school and like in life, I'm not going to start out as president of a company. So I need to find my way. I need to build those skills. Remember, I said earlier, when I started at 19 until I started Intercom, that was a 12-year apprenticeship. And I learned a lot. I was promoted. I was rated well, with my peers. I was rated well with the managers. But I was always trying to do more to give back and to work as a team. So for your audience, employers want to know, how quickly can someone be part of us? Can I use them? Can I trust them? Will they go the extra mile? It's really fun when you think about, and as I've watched people come into the organization and grow and do their work and have become really good at what they do. And so that's been, that's fun. And later in my life, I'll certainly will reflect back and think even better of how I've seen people start from nothing and turn into, really great people. So for anyone that's coming to work, it's going to be really important to find a way to be part of the team and to embrace where the company's going. and be there to participate and to be there and be present. Because with that, great things can come.
So thank you for your time. We have 30 seconds left. So describe yourself in one word. You have 20 seconds left.
Moxie.
Moxie, I like it. Great. So thank you for
Well,
coming.
thank you. Thank you. It's a real pleasure being here. Really honored to have been chosen. And I hope that you guys have great success with this.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for coming.